On October 14, 2017, police in Cedar Ridge, Oregon, received a call that initially sounded routine. A woman reported a strong odor coming from her neighbor's house. Officers expected a dead animal. What they found instead would become one of the most disturbing true crime investigations the town had ever seen. The home belonged to Thomas Halpern, a quiet high school guidance counselor known for helping troubled students. Neighbors described him as polite, soft-spoken, invisible in the way ordinary people often are. His car sat in the driveway, front door locked, lights still on inside. When officers forced entry, the smell hit immediately. Rot, heavy, unmistakable. They followed it to the basement, and halfway down the stairs, one officer stopped moving. There was blood on the wall, not splattered. Written, numbers, dates, dozens of them. At the bottom of the stairs sat a metal desk, perfectly organized. Stacks of files, a tape recorder, and a single red notebook placed carefully in the center. Behind the desk lay the body of Thomas Halpern. He had been dead for several days. No signs of struggle, no defensive wounds, just a single precise cut across his throat. The weapon was nowhere nearby. At first glance, detectives assumed suicide staged strangely, until they opened the red notebook. Each page contained a name, age, occupation, personal fears, daily routines, and at the top of every entry was a sentence written neatly in black ink. Subject observation complete. There were 43 names, 37 were crossed out. Detective Laura Mendez began checking them one by one. Her stomach dropped quickly. Every crossed-out name belonged to someone already dead. Car accidents, disappearances, unsolved murders stretching back nearly 8 years. People from different cities, different states. No known connection. Except one, Thomas Halpern. Halpern had moved frequently before settling in Cedar Ridge. Always taking counseling or education jobs. Always working with vulnerable people. Police began to suspect something terrifying. Had a trusted counselor secretly been a serial killer hiding in plain sight? But the deeper they dug, the stranger the case became. Because forensic evidence didn't match. None of the earlier deaths connected physically to Halpern. No DNA. No travel overlap strong enough to prove involvement. Yet, somehow, he had predicted them. The tape recorder found on his desk contained dozens of recordings. Most were therapy-style conversations. But Halpern was the only voice speaking. He asked questions as if someone sat across from him. Long pauses followed, as though he were listening to answers no one else could hear. One recording changed everything. Halpern sounded afraid. His voice trembled. "I did what you asked," he whispered. "I watched them. I wrote everything down." Silence. Then he said something investigators would replay hundreds of times. "You said they'd stop dying." Another pause. His breathing grew uneven. "You promised I wouldn't be next." The recording ended with a loud knock echoing somewhere in the house. Detectives turned their focus toward the remaining 6 names in the notebook. Living people, potential targets. Police contacted each one immediately. 5 were placed under protection. The 6th name belonged to Dr. Evan Kessler, a psychiatrist living 2 towns away. Officers arrived at Kessler's home the next morning. They found him dead in his study. Cause of death, blunt force trauma. Time of death estimated just hours after Halpern died. On Kessler's desk sat something chilling. Another notebook. Black. Inside were psychological evaluations, profiles, and surveillance notes. About Thomas Halpern, the investigation flipped instantly. Halpern wasn't tracking victims. He was being studied. Kessler had treated Halpern years earlier for severe paranoia and auditory hallucinations. According to medical records, Halpern believed someone was orchestrating deaths around him, someone who forced him to observe people before they died. Detectives assumed mental illness. until analysts compared both notebooks. The handwriting labeling future victims matched neither Halpern nor Kessler. A third writer existed, someone both men feared. Security footage from Halpern's street revealed something unsettling. At 2:11 a.m., the night of his death, a figure approached the house. Face hidden. Carrying nothing, the person entered using a key. They left exactly 12 minutes later. Police enhanced the footage repeatedly. Height average, gait calm, no urgency. Someone comfortable being there, but the camera briefly captured one detail. The visitor turned toward the lens before leaving, smiling. Weeks passed without answers. Then another death occurred. One of the protected individuals from Halpern's notebook, Rachel Lynn, was found murdered inside her apartment, despite active police monitoring nearby. There were no forced entry signs, only one item left behind. A red notebook page torn cleanly from Halpern's journal. At the top were new words investigators had never seen before. Observation transferred. Panic spread through the task force. Someone was continuing whatever system Halpern had been part of. And now, police realized something worse. The killer wasn't choosing victims randomly. They were studying fear. Every victim shared psychological vulnerability, grief, anxiety, trauma histories. Someone had access to confidential mental health information. Someone invisible inside trusted systems. Months later, Detective Mendez reviewed old recordings again. One detail finally stood out. Background noise during Halpern's final tape. A faint, ticking sound. Not a clock. A pedestrian crossing signal. Investigators traced intersections near Halpern's home, matching the audio frequency. Only one nearby building fit perfectly. Cedar Ridge Behavioral Outreach Center, where dozens of therapists shared patient databases, including Dr. Kessler, and once, Thomas Halpern. Police executed a search warrant. Inside an unused office, hidden behind storage shelves, they discovered a surveillance setup. Photos covered the walls. Hundreds of people. Notes tracking emotional breakdowns, predicting behavioral outcomes. And at the center, a desk with a fresh red notebook. Open. Waiting. Footsteps echoed behind officers. A staff member stood calmly in the doorway. Michael Arden, administrative coordinator. Background clean, friendly, forgettable. Exactly the kind of person no one notices. He didn't run. He simply raised his hands and said quietly, "I was wondering when you'd understand." During interrogation, Arden revealed a philosophy that horrified investigators. He believed extreme fear exposed humanity's true self. For years, he secretly accessed therapy records, selecting emotionally fragile individuals. He manipulated circumstances, anonymously stalking, threatening, escalating psychological pressure. Some victims spiraled into accidents. Others became vulnerable enough for him to kill directly. Halpern and Kessler had discovered fragments of the pattern, so Arden turned them into observers instead. "For research," he said calmly. When asked why he kept notebooks, Arden smiled. "Patterns matter." Detective Mendez asked the final question. "Why kill Halpern?" Arden's expression darkened slightly. He realized the study never ends. Michael Arden was convicted of multiple murders 2 years later, but investigators never confirmed the total victim count. Some deaths remained impossible to link conclusively. The most disturbing detail emerged after sentencing. During evidence review, officers discovered one final notebook hidden among Arden's belongings. Inside were new entries written after his arrest. Names, dates, observations continuing. The handwriting again didn't match Arden's or anyone involved in the case. The final page contained only one sentence, written carefully. Subject observation ongoing. Below it was Detective Laura Mendez's name. The case officially closed in 2021. But former investigators admit something still unsettles them. Every few years, unexplained deaths connected to therapy networks appear across different states. And occasionally, a red notebook page is found nearby, carefully placed, as if someone new has continued watching, studying, waiting.